Listen up, team. We're on our 4th Samuel L. Jackson 101 movie, and I know you're tired, but we gotta pull it together for this episode about sports drama Coach Carter. Junkies, we got this. Now put your hands in. Junkies on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Junkies!
Fill me up with a barrel full of monkeys, as I hate being bored, I hate being bored. Load me up, cause I'm such a junkie. Every day all I want is more. So entertain me right now. So entertain me right now.
Welcome to the Pop Culture Junkie Podcast. I'm Nicole, and I'm here with my fellow junkies,
Alex.
And Hayley.
And today we are back to our Samuel L. Jackson 101 class with a lesson on Coach Carter. This movie is based on the true story of Coach Ken Carter, who benched his entire high school basketball team during a winning season when they failed to meet his academic standards. So, let's talk about this movie.
Okay, first of all, I just now found out that this was based on the true story. Excuse me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's inspirational.
We were just talking about the ending is like real.
Wow.
Slideshow.
Yeah, good times. So this movie came out in 2005, which was my senior year of high school. And I remember seeing it in the theater. This is what I like to say that this is one of 3 movies that inspired me to become a teacher.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I've seen it a few times. It was good going back and like revisiting it. But I definitely, now that I'm 10 years into my teaching career, I had to laugh at a few different things and kind of came at it from a teacher's lens. So I'll be sure to share some of my thoughts about that. But
Yeah, see, I never watched this movie because I got to be straight with you. I don't like watching sports movies. Ever since watching Hardball, I feel like sports movies just pull at my heartstrings.
Yeah.
And
Were you waiting for someone to die the whole time?
I was very scared.
I mean, someone
I was
did
really,
die.
I mean, yeah, they weren't part of the team.
No.
But even still, like, I don't know, it's just too emotional for me. So I try to avoid just sports movies. But I'm glad we watched this because this is probably my most favorite movie of all the movies we've watched so far.
Nice.
I back that up. Obviously I've heard about the movie. I don't know if I've actually sat down and watched the whole thing in full, but I definitely remember seeing some parts of it. I agree. I'm a fan of sports movies, but I would agree. I would say this is probably one of my favorite movies that we watched between Samuel L. and Keanu Reeves.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like the whole part of it being a true story, the acting and how the movie was actually all put together and the story was really good. I really enjoyed actually sitting down and watching this movie. It didn't feel like the 2.5 hours or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
long,
it was
but
long, but it
didn't feel long.
Yeah. Let's talk about the cast of this movie because it is pretty stacked.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we've got Samuel L. Jackson who plays Coach Ken Carter, right? The title character. Yep. But then there's a lot of other people that I kept going, oh, hey, that's so-and-so. So like Robert Richard, who played his son, Damien, he was on this show like when I was a kid called Cousin Skeeter.
Cousin Mother Loving Skeeter.
Dude, that show is
with the
good.
puppet.
Yes.
Oh, man.
It was so good.
So good.
And I completely forgot about it until I was watching this and I was like, no way.
Yeah.
It's the puppet kid.
I will say
Oh,
his
man.
eyes were so dreamy.
He's a good looking dude.
He really is.
Have you watched Cousin Skeeter, Nicole? No? No, it's way before your time.
Yeah, that's like such a throwback to anybody kind of growing up in the 90s.
Yeah.
And what it was Nickelodeon, wasn't it?
It was
Yeah.
Nickelodeon.
Cousin
So Cousin Skeeter is a puppet. And he's the only puppet in this entire like live action like comic like comedy
my
sitcom.
God.
on
And he's
Nickelodeon.
funny. It was good.
Yeah, it was so good.
Good times. And then Rick Gonzalez, who plays Timo, I know him obviously most recently from The Flash.
He's on The Flash? No.
Yeah.
Who is he playing The Flash?
Or no, it was Arrow. Well, I guess it's all one and the same. But on Arrow, he was like the hockey mask.
It might have been before I stopped watching it.
He was also so
He's on DC Legends of Tomorrow too?
yeah, he's on all of those like Arrowverse shows. He plays Rene Ramirez is his character, but then he's some sort of vigilante in a hockey
I
mask.
don't remember him.
Yeah.
The Arrowverse.
And then he was on a show that I watched called Reaper that was short-lived. It was only
heard of that.
a couple seasons, but he was one of the main characters on that show too. So it was
Yeah.
good seeing him in this too.
Ashanti is in this movie too. I was like, "What? What's up, girl?"
I forgot about her too. Like all of these people, it's such a
It's a good cast.
blast from the past.
And then Channing Tatum.
Oh yeah, Channing Tatum is on there.
his first movie.
His first movie. I can't believe that.
Yeah, I feel like all of his roles are the same, where he plays like the bad white boy.
Yeah.
And, like,
in the hood.
yeah, I didn't know how to say it.
I gotta say,
but
when I was watching this,
yeah.
he sounded a lot like Eminem on 8 Mile.
yeah,
Yes.
100%.
Which is
the
weird
first
because
scene that he
he's
started
like from
talking.
a small country town in Alabama. So I don't
Complete
understand.
opposite.
Yeah, I don't get that. That's the trajectory that his career
Now I gotta
took.
see, when
I
did
feel
8
like-
Mile
yeah.
come out?
It's so.
I was wondering, 2002. So it could
They were
be
inspired.
very well that there's some sort of influence there.
And then I was excited to see Adrienne Bailon in it, but she did not even have a role. She's from Cheetah Girls.
Oh, dude,
Oh yeah,
that's who
no,
that
she did. Yeah,
was.
she was the friend.
She was.
Ashanti's
I was
friend.
saw her and I was like, oh my god, sweet. She's gonna be in this, and then
No, she
she's
just-
never shown
She has
again.
like 2 lines.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like what the heck? I thought she was gonna have a bigger part because I don't know. I feel like at the time maybe she wasn't that big yet, but
Okay, her
No.
character and Ashanti and Channing Tatum. I don't know if you guys picked up on this as much as I did, but it was like really bugging me how much they were like trying to sound like high schoolers in the inner city. Like I felt like they just kept pushing out
That-
almost like
yeah.
an inflection, like a vocal inflection, kind of almost like an accent where I was like, this is not believable.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Channing Tatum
I
plays
felt
the same
complete
roles.
opposite. I kind of believed it. I mean, other than like thinking like, oh, this is Eminem and 8 Mile. Like after a while, I got used to it. Like all of those basketball players, I felt like I knew
Yeah,
growing up in high school.
Yeah.
And this came out my sophomore year of high school.
Oh, there you go.
So like, I was like, oh, I know these kids.
Yeah. Oh, and then Octavia Spencer shows up.
Oh, yeah.
Like as the mom, Junior
Yeah.
Battle's mom.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh man, yeah. Octavia Spencer, she's a beast.
Yeah.
yeah,
And like who would have known that she would have gone on to have such a crazy career?
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't
And-
know. Yeah.
Bob Costas. I
Bob
don't know if
Costas?
you guys, yeah, I don't know if you guys really know who he is, but when he came up and he started doing like the whole news segment on how he's striking or whatever, I'm
Yeah.
like, what is this? Like, why are you in this movie? I get it. He's a huge
Oh,
sports
the news like
broadcaster.
okay, yeah. I remember that.
I get, but I'm like, how did they get him?
That makes me wonder, like with the true story back then. I'd be interested to hear from like the real life people because obviously like Hollywood dramatizations make things bigger than
Yeah.
they are, and I'm like, was this really being talked about like on Sports Center? Like, was this as big of a deal
And yeah,
as they made it out to be, or was it just like kind of this small
Do we
town?
know when this actually happened? When the Coach Carter story? Because I feel like maybe I would have. Oh, 1999.
1999.
Yeah.
Which
Well,
also
yeah,
makes
I wasn't
sense
paying
with
attention.
some of the like fashion choices that they had and the music they were listening to.
Yeah.
It gave me very like late 90s vibes.
It did give me some late 90s vibes. The music kind of felt like when they was over here like talking about like to the window, to the wall.
yeah.
I was like, no, I remember that. I was high school.
Oh, yeah,
I was
that's
definitely
true, that's
bumping and
true.
grinding.
That totally was, yeah, like my junior senior year. It was the long basketball shorts like down to their ankles for me, where I was like, that's not the style anymore.
Yeah, this movie is great, and it's so fitting for right now too, because we're in the middle of the NBA Finals. So
true.
this was a good
Yeah.
watch. So I was like, being that I am from Boston, and being that the Celtics are in the NBA Finals.
Yes, and I am rooting for them.
Thank you very
because
much. I appreciate your.
Of course I am.
No, I am too.
Oh,
I can't root for another Western Conference team that eliminated my team.
I guess
You know,
that makes sense.
so.
All right,
Yeah.
by default,
Go
I'll
Boston.
accept that.
So, according to the real life coach, Ken Carter, he said 98.5% of the film is true to my own life and what happened to me.
Really?
yeah,
So, don't know necessarily about the other characters, but from his perspective anyway, it's true to kind of how he.
Yeah,
So
I
that's kinda
think.
cool.
I guess judging the movie based on the story is kind of hard because it's based on a real life story. Because there was a point when I was watching it and I was feeling, okay, is this a movie not only just about the team, but is this also about Coach Carter learning his own lessons, like finding some sort of like enlightenment through this story? But I don't think in the movie he really learns anything other than watching these kids grow up
yeah,
and like.
Yeah. I mean, I think the scene where he's going to quit and he comes back into the gym and the kids are all there and they're all studying and they're like, we've got stuff to do, get out of here. I think that part, and then the part where Timo comes to his house after the shooting, I think those two things maybe not explicitly show like teaching him a lesson, but I do think they help him deal with like, or come to a realization of one, I don't know the full story about these kids. And then two, like people can surprise you. Like don't just automatically default to like worst case scenario and like allow people to surprise you. Or like even when the team stepped up and started doing the push-ups and the,
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, that was definitely.
That was one of my favorite parts, I think, because I feel like that was a moment when they realized they needed to come together as a team. And once they did that, that's when everything started falling in place for them.
Up,
Yeah.
I love this movie because you know, it's about, you know, breaking the status quo. And, you know, now that I gotta confess, once the credits started, I kind of turned it off. So I didn't see the slideshow. So I didn't know it was part of a real story. But, you know, it's about breaking the status quo. It's about like becoming like a person and like just trusting yourself and like, you know, figuring out your own destiny and being in control of your life, no matter what other people say, no matter what lane they put you through, you get to decide your own destiny. Yeah. And I feel like that's what I got out of this movie, and it was great.
Yeah, I agree. I also like how the principal finally came to his side. I mean, I see both points. Like, they have a set GPA that the students need to meet, but then he was like, no, I'm going to raise it because I want my students to be better. What do you guys think? Do you think the contract was a little too much for them?
For me, if I was his student, I would have left. I would not be there. I would have hated him. I'm like, yo, this coach is overreacting.
Would you have left him for the contract or because what he was making them do, like the suicides and everything?
I think it was all of it. Honestly, every single thing, the contract, the suicides, like 2,000 push-ups, like it was just too much. Like, bro, you really like out here, like, and now I can't play because like now I'm bound to this contract that I barely understand. I don't know. I would have left. I'm glad that those students did stay, you know, and like really find that. And, you know, but I just thinking of just high school Alex, I would have not. Yeah. I would have just, I don't know, what is
Well, and we see that twice. We see Timo leave and we see Junior leave. And they kind of got to go through that process of like figuring out, does this actually matter to me?
That's a good point, yeah.
I think all of them kind of go through that process a little bit.
Maybe I would have come back.
And then the Timo thing where his friend gets shot in front of him and then he's like, yeah, this is not the lifestyle that I want to live. I need to get back into basketball so it can change my life around.
Well, and what's really, okay, so I guess bringing in a little bit of my like teacher eyes. So I thought it was so funny because wasn't it like a 2.3 GPA, right? I'm dying over here. I'm like, this whole town is up in arms because he's requiring a 2.3 GPA. That's like, it's like a C- average. Yeah.
Wow.
Like,
I graduated with a 2.3 GPA.
Like,
high school.
It's just so funny to me that like, you know, that's, I could see if it was a 3.0, right? Or 3.5, but like a 2.3, I'm like, yo, bare minimum.
But I mean, the requirement was a 2.0.
But at the same time, it's like I run a program at my school where the minimum GPA requirement is 2.5
really?
To be involved in the program. And we have had so many students not meet that requirement that we've gotten to the point where we graduate past everybody, regardless of their GPA. We also have, like, he had service hours as part of his contract. We have that as part of our contract. Same thing. They don't meet the hours. They graduate from the program. So it used to be you have to meet these requirements in order to graduate from the program. So many kids quit meeting the requirements that we then shifted it to everybody graduates from the program, participation trophy kind of thing. And if you meet the requirements, here's a fancy certificate saying, congratulations, you met the requirements. And as a teacher, I'm like, then what is the point of anything that we're doing?
You know, that makes me think, though, because as a high school student, like I said, I graduated with a 2.3, I believe, 2.4 maybe. But I know it was low 2 point something. And I failed. I got to that point, that grade point average, mostly because I didn't want to be involved in school. I just did the minimum requirements. And I'm wondering, like, if that really is what makes a student. Like, is that really, like, giving them this, like
a place to belong?
Benchmark, yeah, to, to graduate. in order to like be like the best student they can be, whether, you know, they're just doing it just because they have to and they're going to meet the minimum requirements to just finally get a diploma, or whether kids are actually motivated to maybe get a 3.5, 4.0.
Yeah.
But I know I was not that kid.
Yeah, it's interesting because I definitely side with Coach Carter on what he's doing, especially in that like his overall message was like, cool, you want to play basketball? Like you and everybody else. Like that's not realistically the future for most of you guys. So what I'm trying to do is just give you choice so that you can actually, and I feel like that's the big thing. Like whether your choice is to go to college or your choice is to play basketball or your choice is to do this, that, or the other thing, it's just to have choice. I actually had a student several years ago, super talented. He was like huge. He was like 6'6" or something. He was massive. And he played on the basketball team. I think it was the year that the high school I taught at won the state championship. This kid was so talented. He had all of these colleges scouting him. And I mean like UCLA, USC, like North Carolina, like major universities scouting this kid. And he had a school from California, a university from California say, like, you're in if you get a 3.0 GPA. And then, no, it wasn't even 3.0. It was like 2.8, right? It was below. You're in, but you have to basically pass your remaining classes with a C. He was in my class. He had an F.
You teach English, right?
Yeah. And I sat down with him and had this conversation, and he told me, you know, I need to pass your class. And I go, okay, here's what you need to do, right? Gave him a list. Here's what you got to do to pass. Not only did he fail my class that year, he failed 2 of his other classes. Man. He didn't get into the university. He ended up going overseas and playing like European basketball for a while. Yeah. Last I heard, he was working at a call center. Never went to college, never got his degree, isn't playing basketball anymore. And I don't know, I feel like that, you know, he didn't have choices for his future because he didn't set himself up to be able to make those choices.
So he didn't graduate?
He graduated, okay. Yeah, but he didn't get a high enough GPA to get into the university, yeah. So I don't know. It's interesting watching this movie and living very similar experiences. And if anything, I'm like, man, I wish I had Samuel L. Jackson's conviction and courage to hold their feet to the fire.
How do you feel about the requirements that he held? And like even just asking for progress reports. If you were one of those teachers who would have to put together a progress report, some extra stuff that you are not required to do, but this coach.
So I actually wrote this down. I put absolutely no teacher on the planet would be bothered by academic accountability for athletes.
100%.
Like there is no teacher that would go, what? Mm-hmm. Progress reports?
I mean, there was that one teacher that went up on the board, in front of the board. He's like, I got to write more things for this guy.
I know. I was dying. I was like, if anything, every teacher I've ever known has begged for academic accountability for their athletes and been like, I'll give you progress reports. Like, I'll hold tutoring. I'll do anything. Just like that one teacher where he's like a solar eclipse. Like he shows up sometimes and whenever he does, it's kind of fun or whatever. But
in high school, I was a dancer and my coach, she would get our grade reports like, I don't know if it was weekly or monthly, but if you were failing a class, she would have you sit out of practice because she wanted your grades to be good. And same thing with my sorority at ASU. If we had to do like check-ins during progress report time and have our teachers physically sign a piece of paper showing that we were passing that class in order to stay active in that sorority. So I mean,
yeah, pass to play is a pretty common practice. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I thought was really funny with like just from a teacher perspective is when they were doing that tournament against like the super white school called the Cougars, which was hilarious to me. And then afterwards they go to the party and they're all drinking and having sex and then whatever. I just wrote down lawsuits. There's no way that they would just be like, slap on the wrist, back on the bus to Richmond High School. Like, coach would have been fired. Mm-hmm. Those kids they would have been arrested. Those parents would have been suing the school. I'm like, there is just no way.
I was pretty wild.
But on a school trip?
Yeah. Oh, man. We got in trouble. But, you know, there was like times where they would take us to different colleges, like in New York and San Francisco and Philadelphia. And we would find any sort of reason to just like be wild.
So funny.
And we get slapped on the wrist. Don't do that. Stop it. You're representing us. And be like, whatever. I'm trying to turn up.
That was honestly such a funny scene when he shows up, or when
The daughter.
the taxi cab driver was like, "Are you looking for your boys?"
Shout out to
Yeah.
the taxi cab.
And he
guy.
just drives him there. I'm like, dang, you
I'll
are
take it
not.
there.
You're a snitch. But
Yeah.
yeah, then he walks in. His son's just making out in the hot tub.
I mean, the thing though, they weren't doing anything. Like,
Nah.
they were just being kids. They were just at a party.
The kid was
turning
literally
up.
having sex upstairs. That's not being kids.
Yeah,
They were drinking.
Damn, I don't know what kind of youth you guys lived.
Well, not that, first of all, but also like because I've had to go on several like out of state field trips with students, and we like shut it down. Like we have ways. I'm not going to reveal them on the podcast.
I don't know why I thought
in case a high
Waze
schooler's
the
listening
app.
to. No, that too. No, we have ways to ensure that kids don't leave their room, and we have like ways of knowing if they did leave their room. So we have all sorts of trickery that goes down. I mean, we busted kids for playing Cards
I wanna
Against
know these
Humanity.
things.
How
Can we
many
do it off the
teachers would go
podcast?
with you guys?
So we would have, I've had two different experiences. I've had like trips with like 50 students, and we've had like 6 to 8 teachers. And then I've had trips with like 30 students, and we've only had 3 adults.
Yeah, see, there was one time we went to San Francisco and we did some wild shit in the hotel. And there was one student that was roomed with one of the teachers, and there were only 2 teachers.
Wait, what?
That's a little weird. That's weird.
So,
I feel
like,
so uncomfortable.
so like we felt so bad for him.
A
And
student ruined a teacher.
we felt so bad.
I'm like, I'm just gonna go sleep on someone's floor.
So illegal.
Yeah, but I think that's why it was so easy for them to find out when we were up to something.
Yeah.
Because like, oh wait,
Dang.
so and so's not here.
Oh, right.
You know, they must be doing what they're not supposed to be doing.
That's so funny.
That's hilarious.
Oh, God.
Oh, man.
And then when the girl's parents comes home, and who was it?
Oh, no. Wait.
Timo was like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I'm with this girl.
No, it was
what's her
Worm,
name?
wasn't it?
Oh, well, whoever it was. And he was like, what's her name? And then Fran's like, Susan. He's like, yeah, Susan.
Yeah.
He's like, that's our daughter.
Or earlier when Channing Tatum was like, this is Betty. And she's like, Bella. And he's like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Crossing the T's.
It was funny because this is like, I realized watching this that this was back because it was the first Channing Tatum movie. It led to like Step Up and all those movies. And this was back before like I was jaded towards Channing Tatum. Like now, like his latest movie that he was in with Sandra Bullock, I didn't even watch it. I was like, I don't
Wasn't
care
it-
about you.
What?
Yeah,
Like
called The
this
Lost
year?
Like
City.
some safari.
Oh, yeah,
It
that's
looked
right,
like Dora
yeah.
the Explorer, but like for adults.
I kind of want to watch it.
I like Dora the Explorer.
But I'm not excited about him anymore. And I don't know if it's because Magic Mike gave us like too much of him, like he was everywhere.
Yeah.
Now I'm just jaded about his existence.
His one movie looks good. His new one called Dog.
Oh, yeah,
That one
about
looks
the
good.
dog.
Yeah.
It's about a dog.
It's a
Yeah.
dog. Yeah.
wow.
A movie
Crazy
called Dog
Dog.
about a dog.
Yeah. Crazy dog.
It's going to make you cry. He's probably going to die. I don't
I
want to
think
watch that
that part
either.
was lit. I don't have any sort of issues with it. The kids were being kids. They were swimming in the pool. Maybe they were drinking. They weren't supposed to do that. But at least they were in a safe environment, you know, all together. It's not like they were
Very
roaming the
different
streets,
interpretations
breaking
of safe
things.
environment.
Sure.
Let's talk about Kenyon and Kira real quick because I don't ship it. So, like, their whole
Is
relationship.
that the baby one?
Yeah.
Oh, no, yeah.
So
that
at
was
the
hard.
end, like it was, I was with it like up until the end. And even when Kira's like, you know what? Like, I support you. Go do your thing. I was like, okay, cool. And then he's like, no, but I want you to come with me. She's like, for real? Let's go. And then she like is all excited again. And if I was her, I would be like, shut that down. Like, we're done. We're over. Like, I don't know. In my head, there's like some things that are like unforgivable, and like dipping out when it gets hard is one of those things. And he like dipped. Like, I don't know. It made me mad. I was like, that ain't no love story. I don't like it.
Yeah, that was a tough one. I mean, they were going through a really difficult, like, decision.
And then she had to do it like by herself.
Did she ended up doing it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, when they
Did
were
it by
sitting on the
herself.
front steps, he was like, I would have gone with you. And she's like,
I
my
see.
mom came with
Oh,
me.
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like since one, I'm not a mom. And I've never really been in like a serious relationship like that. That for me, I liked them because he did come back, and I get it. Like, you're a mom, you understand more things than I obviously do. So it might be more different.
Well, yeah,
watching it,
different perspective.
But I don't know. He came back and he was there for her when he was like, oh, we're going to have this baby. And she was like, oh, well, I decided I didn't want to have the baby. And I did appreciate that he was supportive about her decision, though. And he wasn't like, what? Why did you do that? Blah, blah, blah. Like, it's my kid, too.
Yeah.
he was just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, whenever you want to go, we'll go do it. So I don't know. I feel like that part drew me in a little more for their relationship because of how supportive he was about her decision. But I get your perspective.
He was supportive because that's what he wanted.
Yeah.
In the first place.
But then he came around. He was like, yeah, we're going to have this baby.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I saw it a different way than you guys.
No, that's true. I think that's why what makes it so difficult because like,
yeah, because you're a dad too. So you
know, it's like, they're young. He has his whole future ahead of him. He's going to college. He's going to try to do the best he can. And now there's all this responsibility that's like falling on his lap. But it's not just his responsibility. He's doing it with somebody. And just them having to go back and forth and kind of like having to decide what to do next. I can see how difficult it is. And, she ultimately made the decision that she felt that she needed to do. And, I'm glad that he respected her for making whatever decision she felt was best. But yeah, it's hard. It's a hard thing to come to.
I do think that's a really relatable storyline for like high schoolers watching this because there's a lot of them who have been in the exact same situation. So, yeah, when she was like, like, it didn't seem to be, you didn't have a problem with it when we were getting down like you were getting
I was like, you tell him.
I was like, get it.
Yeah, you're right. You was there, buddy.
Takes two to tango, dude.
What did you guys feel about there not being so many F-bombs by Mr. Jackson?
Oh, yeah, very family friendly.
Is there any?
Yeah.
There was? Okay.
I think by a couple players.
Oh, it wasn't
I didn't even notice.
Oh, maybe it was an F word. I know there was swearing.
There was swearing for sure.
Maybe no F words.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, that was interesting. In fact, he like comes down on the players for their language, which is obviously very different from every other Samuel L. Jackson role. It was funny. He was kind of the Captain America of the story.
I feel like this role embodies who Sam Jackson is. I feel like he's like that uncle that everybody like listens to. And, he's like fun but strict. He'll like be there with you and support you, but he'll be like, you better step back and like watch yourself. And I feel like he really like honed down on that. And I felt like that was Sam Jackson.
Yeah.
I don't know Sam Jackson, but if I were to meet Sam Jackson, I feel it would be like Ken Carter.
Yeah.
One of the other things I liked about this movie, so as I mentioned, this is kind of one that inspired me in my career path. This one came out in 2005, 2006, and 2007. So right after Freedom Writers came out. And then this other movie called The Ron Clark Story of Matthew Perry came out. And they're all kind of inspirational, like teacher stories. But especially now looking back, both Freedom Writers and Ron Clark Story, it's kind of, unfortunately, kind of white savior stories of like these teachers coming into this inner city school and trying to kind of assimilate to the culture and being like, hey, kids, look, I can rap too, kind of thing. and they're both true stories, and they're both inspirational teachers and figures who change kids' lives.
Have you watched Pay It Forward?
Oh, I freaking love that movie.
Oh, man, yeah.
Oh, dude, that's another really, oh my gosh, that's a really good one. That's so sad.
Edward James almost was in that one, right?
No, that's Stand and Deliver, which is also amazing.
Oh, okay. I got. Yes. Kevin Spacey's in.
Kevin Spacey's Pay It Forward, right. Unfortunately. But yeah, that movie is great. Stand and Deliver is great. Yeah. So, but I think what I liked about Coach Carter, especially now as an adult going back and watching it, is there's none of this. I'm coming from the outside and trying to fix you. It's I went to this high school. This is my community. These are my kids. Yep. And so he's able to connect to those kids in a way that is different from all these other stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I really liked that.
Yeah, I felt it in the end where they're like, Rich, what? Where am I from? Rich, what?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'm from Richmond. I'm not, but I felt it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I got a question for you guys.
Okay.
What's your biggest fear?
Oh, no.
My biggest fear is that everyone throughout time will quote this quote about what is your biggest fear and attribute it to Nelson Mandela, even though he never said it and Marianne Williamson said it instead. That's an actual thing.
I was going to say, is that a thing? Because that was very accurate.
Everybody, every single... So that quote, what is your greatest fear? Our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. It is that we are powerful beyond measure. So At one point, I had that like committed to my memory, and because of this movie, and for years I thought it was Nelson Mandela, and it's been used in tons of speech. Like Hillary Clinton used it in a speech. It's been used in all these speeches, and everyone's always like, "This quote by Nelson Mandela said, what is our greatest fear? Our greatest fear is not."
See?
And it's like straight up not a Nelson Mandela
I was
quote.
confused with that because my
Yeah.
greatest fear is potato bread. I don't understand potato bread. Is it bread or is it potato? Like, I am scared of knowing exactly how they put those two things together because it doesn't make sense to me.
I'm dead.
Oh,
Potato bread.
Yeah, like, what is it? I don't want it. I like a little brioche. You know, that's bread. Potato? No. I heard of zucchini bread recently. How do you do that?
How do you feel about banana bread?
oh,
So, what? Banana bread is like just putting banana into bread. Is that the same as potato bread?
probably.
I don't know. This
See?
isn't a bakery. I don't know.
It's like, do you just like mash a bunch of potatoes and like make it into a loaf?
Those are like my two favorite.
Isn't that
foods.
just
I love potato bread.
mashed potato?
I've never had it, but
You never
in
had
slices?
potato bread?
no, but it sounds good.
Oh, it's good. I like it.
Honestly, I think that's why I'm scared because it is good. And I don't want to know anything else about
Warm
it.
up some gravy, maybe dip it in gravy.
But I mean, you opened this.
Oh my
you asked
gosh.
the
To be
question.
real though, my greatest fear is death of all varieties, any capacity. I don't care. Like, so like people are like, are you afraid of heights? If they can kill me, yes. Are you afraid of sharks? They can kill me, so yes. Anything that can kill me, I'm afraid of it. Yeah. Potato bread,
What's
not
your-
included.
Potato bread could.
I guess it could if I
You could choke it. Yeah, exactly. Watch out with that
Oh my
potato bread.
God, that's so funny.
What about you, Nicole?
Well,
What's your greatest fear?
Oh God, this is gonna get deep. Just being a disappointment.
Oh, snap.
That is deep. That
Yeah.
is- I
To
feel
who though?
My parents and my family and friends. Like,
In a way, does that
like
mean,
my parents, my sisters, and my very close friends.
Like the people you value the
yeah,
most.
yeah.
in the way does that mean it's almost you're afraid of being a disappointment to yourself? Because in a way,
Oh,
like
for
I feel
sure.
like our families,
For sure.
we grow up with them. You know, we become like you know what they create us into, our parents, and so yeah, like
Yeah, because I mean, I picture my life completely different at this age. I thought I'd be in my career right now, but no, things are just going on their own time, I guess. And I just got to keep reminding myself that because I compare myself a lot to my friends who all have career jobs right now. And I get interviews, I don't get the job. So I'm just always like, what am I doing wrong? And then when I tell my parents I didn't get the job, I feel like a disappointment to them. I know I'm not, but it's just like a spiral, like
Just
keeps
is
going back
deep.
around and around.
yeah, I get it. I get
And
it.
Yeah, we could
feel
totally
this.
change
No,
this.
I mean, but
subject.
going back to like,
feel this.
yeah, like Coach Carter, like
Yeah.
just going back to what I was talking about before, like why I loved it is because you're able to break those barriers that are in a way stopping you, whether it's the status quo or whether it is your own fears, you know, just breaking through those and creating your own path. And even as you come and like experience all these different things, you know, you apply to all these different jobs, you work at all these different jobs, you know, that still builds you up to be the person that, you know, you eventually like guide yourself to be. We hold our own destiny.
I liked how with this movie, it focused on a single team, a single season, and that they lost.
Yeah.
And that all of the kid, like in the montage at the end, the kids like went to normal colleges. Some of them played basketball, some of them didn't. Got a communications degree, got a business degree. It wasn't so and so became the next LeBron James,
Yeah.
or so and so made $1 bajillion. And I liked that. I like that they didn't win the championship and have the Cinderella story. And the reason I like that is because I think that, like Nicole, you're talking about kind of this weight of like expectation and expectations for ourselves and for our future and for our lives. And I think whether it's in my students, I see that when I teach 12th graders and I thought I would get into XYZ university and I didn't. Or in my own life where I thought I would be Coach Carter and change a bunch of lives, and I'm 10 years in and I'm like, have I really done anything, you know, except for like babysat for 10 years? Like I have those moments, I have those thoughts where I'm like, am I really changing anything? Like, and so I liked that it wasn't so much about the destination as it was about the journey that all these kids went through to get to that point where, again, kind of going back to so they could have choices. Because I think for all of us, it's like we focus sometimes so much on the destination when so little of that is in our actual control.
But even in like creating those, like having the opportunity to create those choices, in that he disciplined them. He's like, you're going to make this, you have to sign this contract and you have to be held accountable for it. You have to do these amount of push-ups in order to come back to the team. He set these these rules that they had to, pretty much get themselves into. And I think that's, in addition to why they're able to create these choices, because they're like figuring out ways to really hone into their own discipline.
Yeah, and like when they were, we talked about the running and how much he made them run. But you see in the very first game that they play with him, they're not tired and the other team is. And I feel like that's like a huge metaphor just like for life in general, whether it's discipline or whatever, is like sometimes we do things and we may not know why at the time, but then something happens, a moment arrives, and we're like, oh, like all of that was preparing us for this particular thing that we're going through. So,
you mentioned LeBron James. This movie came out in 2005. LeBron James was drafted in 2003, but this is based off 1999.
Yeah.
Who was LeBron James in 1999?
That's true.
I wonder
They
who.
didn't they mention that?
They did.
They were like, this is
you're
gonna be the next LeBron James.
I'm not the next LeBron.
I'm the first, whatever.
I'm the first
True.
me.
I didn't think of that.
Yeah, I just thought of it just now. I was like, wait a second.
So maybe they didn't set it in the 90s. Maybe they just set it in 2005.
Maybe.
But it definitely still had some 90s vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also thought about how Samuel L. Jackson, Coach Carter, didn't want his son initially on his team, and then his son ended up becoming the MVP of his own team.
And then breaking his dad's records.
Yeah.
That was dope.
Yeah. I was like, dang, I wonder if it's like, okay, maybe I did make the right decision. Because he was like, you make your decisions and you got to live with the consequences. And I'm like, well, consequences are good for him, it looks like. So
Yeah, it was interesting too how he didn't want him to be on the team. It was almost like I want better for you, than I want for myself. And it kind of showed like his son was like, but this is better for me.
If I were Coach Carter and my son would want to play in my team, I wouldn't want him to play either. I wouldn't want him to play unless I know that he wanted to play for himself and not just because, he's trying to prove something to his dad.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and it felt like this was for him. So
It'd be hard to coach your kid.
yeah.
I think.
I mean, he told him to do a
All the same
crazy
stuff.
amount of
Yeah.
push-ups before.
Yeah. And he ended up being like a leader on the team, I think. Until he won the hot tub with that one girl.
Yeah. Oh, man.
So one of the things that I know, Alex, you mentioned like you don't love watching sports movies. One of the things that will turn me off from a sports movie is when I can tell that the people in the movie are not athletic or they don't know anything about, like they're not actually playing anything. Like I know I mentioned American Underdog a while back and went to go see that, the Kurt Warner movie. One of the things I liked about it was Zachary Levi, like actually learned how to throw a football and spent a lot of time on the field with Kurt Warner, like training so that those football sequences, when he got hit, it wasn't him, but the other time, like it was actually him. And so what I thought was interesting with this movie is the actors ended up going through a 3-week basketball camp before filming the movie and had to run like the same play over 100 times to get the coordination exact and precise. And I think it comes through in the movie because
Absolutely.
there's like, it's very believable
Yeah.
that these kids are playing this game.
Especially in that last game. Because also, sports movies, I feel sometimes, like for example, that Keanu Reeves movie that we watched.
Yeah, the replacements.
The Replacements. I know it was kind of like a comedy, but you didn't really see them play sports. But that last game, like I felt like I sat throughout the entire game watching them, and I was in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all those blocks, like those are really exciting me. I feel like the most exciting part of basketball is like when somebody just blocks somebody's shot.
A block and a
So
dunk.
rare. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if it's you guys or if it's just me, but whenever I'm watching a movie that has like a sports game involved or whatever, And it's coming down to the last 5 seconds, and the last 5 seconds of the movie takes 10 minutes. And I'm counting down the clock. I'm like, the game should have been over like 30 seconds ago.
I mean, like, basketball can last 10 minutes for the last 5 seconds.
No, but like the clock was like continuous for the 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Like he was dribbling down the court and he ended up missing the shot or whatever. And I was like, this game was over 2 seconds ago. Like, come on. I don't know. I just think about that in my head, and that bothers me a little bit with sports movies.
I had a similar thought. So this director also made Save the Last Dance, and it gave off like these teenage, like the same kind of vibe as some of these other like teen movies. And then one of the writers, he co-wrote One Tree Hill.
Yeah, I could totally see those two correlating.
But I felt like this one wasn't as like cheesy,
dramatized.
dramatic. Yeah. Like I felt like
sure.
this one was a cut above those other movies. Or
I
shows,
agree.
whatever.
Yeah, One Tree Hill's more like for your teenagers, where this one is kind of for anyone, I feel like.
I mean, I think it helps that it's based on a true story.
Yeah,
and sometimes
I
it's
agree.
hard to like take a story that's already, been lived and put it on screen. But I think they did a good job in like telling that. And it felt, it's called Coach Carter, but it really felt like it was very much about the Oilers. I think that's what I appreciated a lot about this movie.
Yeah, and it was because it's, it happened in the late 90s, it was set in the early 2000s. It feels more relevant, I think, than some of the other like Invincible and Glory Road and Remember the Titans. Like, I love all those movies. I'm a sports movie junkie. Like, I love it. I cry every time. I love all those movies, but they're all set like in the 70s or during the civil rights era. And it's almost like Remember the Titans, it's like, and rightfully so, but football takes a way back seat to like the civil rights era, like, right? And kind of everything that's going on. But this one, you still have like, I don't know, I still feel like it speaks to racial issues, and it still speaks to like poverty and the things that these kids are facing, but in a much more kind of modern way that is still relevant for people right now.
Because, I mean, I still feel like people still see the status quo as, oh, you're just, you're only good enough to be a basketball player. You're not going to graduate from high school. You're going to go to prison or just end up dead somewhere. I feel like those things still exist. And so even though this movie is from 2005, it definitely relates to, a lot of what's going on in 2022, really.
Yeah. So let's rate it, right? Yes. Let's rank it. What do we think the movie itself, Coach Carter itself?
I'm giving it an A+. I have to. Like I said, really, really, really actually enjoyed sitting down and watching this movie. I think because it was a sports movie, it's a true story. And like I said at the beginning of this episode, just how well put together this movie was. Like you said, Alex, it's a true story, and sometimes it's hard to portray some of the things that have happened. Obviously, we weren't physically there to know what the true story actually was or how it played out. But I feel like with even Coach Carter himself, the real life Coach Carter, saying that Samuel L. Jackson played him a 98.5, we said, percent accuracy.
Specific. He wasn't a teacher. He was just the coach.
Yeah, right.
Really specific.
98.5% accuracy. I think that just kind of is a statement in itself that the director and everything just worked very hard to make sure that this story and movie was set just how it happened in real life.
Yeah, I think I will give this movie a 98.5.
Nice.
That's an A+.
Yeah.
Is it, Hayley?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was like, I think it is.
Teacher?
Yes, it is. Correct.
And honestly, I can't think of anything wrong with it.
Yeah, it was good.
Something I did. I'm trying to think of something I didn't like about the movie, and I can't think of it. It was a good watch.
You didn't like the contract.
I mean, that was just me personally,
real
like
life,
feeling
though, yeah.
against like just this dude's, the way he decided to coach the team. But even still, like just the reason that he did it for and the impact that it had on the kids, it means a lot. And I feel like, it's good to watch something like this because I felt motivated by it. I was like, wow, like I gotta push forward. I gotta do 2,000 push-ups a day.
Yes.
But I think it's a great movie, and like even learning now that it's based off of a true story. Like I thought it was its own standalone film, but it wasn't. And I think that's kind of part of the magic of it. It's like it still feels like its own story, but it's also based on something that is real. And I think that's hard sometimes to do when you're like creating a movie that's already been lived.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was surprised to see it had such a low score on Rotten Tomatoes.
It did?
Yeah, its critics' consensus was 64%.
Oh, wow.
User reviews 85%, which, you know, whatever, Rotten Tomatoes isn't an authority by any means.
IMDb gave it a 7.3 out of 10.
Yeah, so it's like a C. I mean, I would say I'd probably give it a B+. It's kind of important to me. It's a fairly integral part of my career trajectory. So I will always have a fondness for this movie and this story, and for any really teacher movie, coach movie. They tug at my heartstrings a little bit, and they remind me why I do what I do and why I chose, you know, what can often be a thankless profession, because it's not about that. It's not about the accolades, and it's not about, you know, any of that stuff. And so it was a good reminder for me, you know, summer vacation, unwinding from the last school year and thinking, oh, do I ever want to go back to a classroom? It was a nice reminder why I do what I do. So yeah, I'll give it a B+, solid B+.
Because it's a B+, not an A, because...
I would say not an A, because some of the performances annoyed me a little bit.
Okay.
And just the kind of, like, Channing Tatum was a little, Ashanti was a little,
Okay, I can see.
But yeah, so that's why I wouldn't give it an A overall.
Yeah.
Samuel L. Jackson, however, I will give an A. Mm-hmm. I think he did a great job. It was nice seeing a change of pace for him. No, you know, action sequences, no F-bombs, no snakes on a plane.
Yeah.
It was nice, yeah.
It felt very grounded. Yeah.
Yeah, I give him an A.
I would give him the same, yeah. You know, I felt so connected to him so much that I wanted to leave his gym. And yeah, I think he did a great job. I'd definitely give him an A.
Yeah, I'll give him an A+. The fact that the real Coach Carter gave him a 98.5, I'm like, who am I to judge?
You're all, he did not do a good enough job portraying this real dude who said that he did a great job.
He's giving him an A+, I'll give him an A+.
Yeah, because I mean, like, when people make these movies based on real life movies that sometimes aren't actually accurate to the story.
Right.
But from the sounds of it, it was very, very close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's hard.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm a sucker for a good biopic, too. Like, I love the true story. Especially because, like, I don't know, stories like this, it's not, you know, like the Elvis movies coming out. And I couldn't be more excited about that. But also, everybody knows who Elvis is. You know, it's not like we need to know his life story, like we know it. But this is like a coach of a high school basketball team from like small. Like, if they didn't make this movie, I never would have known anything about it, right? Yeah. So I'm always a sucker for that story, small town hero.
Coach, yeah, exactly. Just a regular guy as opposed to, you know, some, you know, the King of Rock.
Yeah. Reminds me of The Blind Side too a little bit, even though Michael Orr did go on to play in the NFL, the bigger league, but I feel like it's kind of similar to that, but I feel like this one's a little bit better.
I didn't know, because I'm not a Baltimore Ravens fan.
Right.
So, like, I didn't even know who Michael Orr was, and I'm sure a lot of his fans even didn't know, like, his origin story or whatever. Yeah. So, yeah, it was cool.
Definitely a good feel-good story. I will watch it again. So give it a watch if you're into sports movies or feel-good movies, true stories. Definitely one of my tops up there, especially Samuel L. Jackson too, but I think we had a great discussion about this movie, and I feel like we all kind of agree, came to a consensus that it's one of the better movies that we've watched so far.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's tell the listeners where they can find you guys.
Cool. Yeah, you can find me, Alex, at ALCASNUN on Twitter and Instagram.
And you can find me, Hayley, on Instagram at 30NerdyThriving.
You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Nicole_Eldridge and on Twitter, NAEldridge14. You could find the Pop Culture Junkie Podcast on Facebook at Pop Culture Junkie Podcast and join our Pop Culture Junkie support group. You can find us on Twitter at Pop Junkies, Instagram at pop.culturejunkies. And if you missed any of that, find us on our website, popculturejunkie.com. Get ready for our next Samuel L. Jackson 101 lesson by watching, drumroll please, Captain Marvel.
Woohoo!
Ooh,
Yeah.
Captain Marvel.
Kind of excited.
I may know a thing or two about Captain Marvel.
I've seen it.
I might have seen it once or
Sam Jackson
7 times.
is He's not. Is he like the lead? How
He
prominent
is.
is his role?
You know, I think
mean-
he's the only lead character in this movie. Everyone else, I feel like he's like the B character.
in the Captain Marvel movie.
That I don't know. I've never.
Brie
seen it, so I don't
Larson
know.
is the lead,
Yeah,
but I would say Samuel L. Jackson is like
I don't
second
remember.
billing.
I watched. I don't remember him much in this movie.
Nick Fury.
I know.
Save it for the show.
All right.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. We hope you enjoyed it, and come back next week for another hit of pop culture.
Pop Culture Junkie is a production of Pop Culture Entertainment Group.
So entertain me